Welcome to Moneyweb at Midday, the actuality news show, offering unique insights and in-depth analysis featuring South Africa's top business leaders, newsmakers, and analysts for today's professionals. Your host, Jeremy Maggs.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Moneyweb at Midday. In the next 30 minutes, I'll put some context around the numbers, perspective around the politics, and clarity around the choices facing us in South Africa. A warm welcome. I'm Jeremy Maggs. Coming up on the program today, Treasury releases 7 billion rand, but municipalities face a new accountability test. The traffic fine rules every South African driver now needs to understand. South Africa's entrepreneurs are being failed by the system meant to support them. And oil turmoil in the Middle East gives recycled plastic an unexpected competitive advantage. It's Monday, the 3rd of August. National Treasury is releasing just over 7 billion rand in previously withheld funding to 49 struggling municipalities, saying residents should not be denied basic services because of failures by local officials. But the relief comes with strict compliance deadlines, investigations, and the threat of disciplinary and criminal action. This is a very important issue. I'm going to talk now to Dr. Zweli Mkhize, who is chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. And he says the money must protect communities without allowing those responsible to escape accountability. Dr. Mkhize, a very warm welcome. Treasury initially withheld just over 13 billion rand from 69 municipalities. What has changed sufficiently, in your opinion, to justify releasing most of it?
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. Let me say that we had welcomed the withholding of equitable share under specific conditions, and that was because as Parliament we've been insisting that there must be accountability, there must be consequence management, and all the departments must use the law to enforce compliance and make sure that money is directed to where it is supposed to be used. In this case, we had actually supported Treasury's decision on the condition, firstly, that they must put the pressure up on municipalities to respond, firstly, to guarantee that they will investigate and act on unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, or wasteful expenditure, and put certain deadlines of how much of this money would have been cleared within a period after up to 30th of November. They also need a commitment from the mayor that there will be no unfunded budget. They must also begin to show a commitment to paying creditors within 30 days. Now, all the municipalities are supposed to do that by law. Now, in this case, we have actually said that the Treasury cannot just sit and make a demand and not put pressure and give support for municipalities to move forward. So this is to balance the protection of communities whilst they direct the transgressors towards consequence management and accountability. We're quite comfortable that they have been able to get some commitment from some of the municipalities, and they're going to continue to put pressure for them to comply fully so that the money must ultimately be released. And so we think it's a step in the right direction.
I do understand the notion of protecting communities, Dr. Mkhize, but isn't releasing the money before anyone has been held accountable simply another bailout for failure?
It is not quite that. What first you do, you need the commitment of the municipality to act on certain things with timelines. Then if they have to act within those timelines, both Treasury and the portfolio committees at provincial and national level must monitor and make sure that the municipalities comply with the timelines. Now, Treasury didn't say arrest people and charge them now. They say show us that you are taking them through a disciplinary process. Who is the disciplinary board member? Who is being disciplined? What is the schedule of meetings? What are the minutes of meetings? We need to see that you are doing what you are expected by law to do. Now, they've been very sluggish and reluctant to act, and we are now pushing them to say, for every step you take, we want to see. And that's where it's going. And I believe because the processes won't be, a guillotine like you stand up now and charge somebody and so on. You need the processes to be followed. Now, they have not been following the processes. We want them to convince us at each and every step that they are following the processes, because once they do that, they can't reverse. They also can't neglect their responsibility.
Are they not just receiving the money because government can't tolerate the service delivery consequences?
Not really. What is happening is that, firstly, the money, equitable share, is meant for communities. And communities are still waiting for the funds, but the communities are waiting for the services, but they are not responsible for administering the funds. Now, who is at fault is the one who's administering the funds, which are the municipal officials. We're now saying if the municipal officials are at fault, it is correct that you must not give them money when they can't account, and force their accountability mechanism so that communities do not suffer. And in the process, you must then make sure that the actions are taken on transgressors effectively to get them to face consequences of their irregular actions. Then the communities will be secured, because you have to keep the balance. Communities mustn't be made to suffer, but you can't let go of accountability processes in the municipalities.
Municipalities have until the end of November then to demonstrate progress. Dr. Mkhize, what happens if those deadlines are missed? Will December allocations be withheld despite the likely impact on residents?
Well, we are hoping, if you look at the history of this matter, way back, I think just beginning of the year, there were almost 100 municipalities that were in this kind of predicament where they did not demonstrate any sense of acting on irregularities and consequence management. They were told at the time, sort yourselves out or else we will withdraw. Over a short period, about 30 of them complied. So this pressure is working. We don't believe that, they can away with all of it. We believe that the numbers, for example, by the time we met, that number had been reduced from 69, they had gone down by maybe about 40 or so of the municipalities that had actually responded, which for us means the pressure is right and the municipalities are responding. And therefore, we will not let go of the pressure. And our point is that there must be so much pressure on municipalities to act by all the committees. That's why we put all the committees together and said all the committees are together, all the departments are together, the provinces they were also part of the meeting. Now everybody must act. And we must put that pressure until they actually act. There's only one group of municipalities that we're more worried about. Those are the ones that are non-viable. Those are the poor municipalities. They don't have enough skills. They don't have enough money. They don't have a revenue base. They can't do anything on their own. Now we're saying Treasury, you need to take responsibility for those. Cochrane and National Department and provincial government must take responsibility, because it doesn't matter how much pressure you put, they will not be able to produce the desired effect until they are given the assistance. But the others, they actually have got a room to maneuver and get things done, because it is more their negligence than it is their objective constraints that are making them unable to perform.
We also know, Dr. Mkhize, that national and provincial departments owe municipalities substantial amounts of money. Let me put this question to you. Can local councils be expected to recover while other parts of government fail to pay their bills?
Very important point. Very, very important point, because in this case, we are saying that the intergovernmental system needs to work better. How can you have pressure on municipalities who are not getting enough revenue because they are not being paid? And amongst the people who owe them are actually the departments, and nothing is being done to them. Now, the same pressure of Section 216 must now be actually waived over. It must actually be raised for the departments to get exactly the same kind of treatment. If they are owing the municipalities and the municipalities are failing to perform, then of course the department must also be put under the similar kind of sanction. And we've made that point very clear. It cannot be. Put it this way: what is source for the goose, it must be source for the gander. What you want to do on this side must be done on the other side as well.
And just a final question. Ultimately, though, isn't the deeper problem weak financial systems, or instead of weak financial systems, rather just, Dr. Mkhize, political unwillingness to remove incompetent or compromised municipal leaders? Fundamentally, isn't that the big issue?
it's a number of issues, but yes, political will is a major issue. And as far as would be concerned, and we sent the message to the municipalities to say audit outcomes are not an indication of a finance department clerk that did not fill up the form. It is not about the CFO who is incompetent. It's not only about, but the municipal manager is deep in this, the mayor is deep in it, the full council, the speaker, because they are overall in charge of the performance of that municipality. So if there are wrong decisions taken, is the council that must take responsibility for allowing individuals to take wrong decisions, and they must act on them. It starts with the political will. And beyond that, it must then go to a question of saying, are the systems strong enough to be able to act when there are transgressions, or to provide the security of control of finances when the funds are being spent. And the laws are the same for every municipality, and no one has got an excuse for not playing according to the same rules.
Dr. Zweli Mkhize is the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs.
You're listening to Moneyweb at Midday.
Now, ARTO has entered its next phase across just over 60 municipalities, as I understand it, changing how traffic fines are issued, delivered and challenged. Notices can now be sent electronically. Motorists may be treated as having received them even when they have not seen the message. That's a problem, I think. It creates new risks involving incorrect contact details, maybe even cloned number plates, bogus fines and fake payment sites. Let's pull all of this together. I want to talk to Cornelia van Niekerk, who's Chief Executive Officer of Fines for You. And I want a sense of what motorists need to know and how to tell a genuine infringement from a scam. Cornelia, we're living in new times. Maybe just an overview quickly. In your opinion, does ARTO improve road safety, or is it simply making it easier to penalise motorists, often incorrectly?
Road safety can only approve when there's visible police next to the road. A camera offence is not going to help road safety. Although people are a little bit scared now of all the new fines, and maybe they will drive a little bit safer than before. But even if I go to the speed of 60 kilometers, I can still drive like a maniac, and that is not going to help. Not at all.
Let me pick up on the one problem that we've heard a lot of chatter about. How can a fine be considered delivered when the motorist may never have even seen it?
Yes, that's one of the new rules on the Act, that they consider a fine delivered once they have sent it. And that's why they tell people, please make sure all your contact details are updated on Natus. Make sure your email address is there. Make sure your cell phone number is there. And even if they send it and you do not read it, they consider it delivered. So it is best to make sure your contact details are there, or then to get a company to monitor your fines, that the moment that the fine comes through on the system, they let you know, listen, there's a new fine and you need to pay it. I really think that is very important to do that.
Cornelia, do you think it's fair in a country where contact details are often outdated and digital access is uneven for this system to have been implemented in the first place?
No, I don't think it's fair, but there's been a lot of requests for please go and update. I mean, if your car or your vehicle gets stolen and they don't have your correct details, how are they ever going to let you know? They started with this online renew system from the RTMC, and I think mainly to get all the correct details, because you must complete your ID number, you must complete your cell phone number, your email address. So they've really got a lot of info from that. But it is your responsibility to go and make sure, if you've got a vehicle registered in your name, that your contact details are updated.
So it's up to you. You carry the risk even when an SMS, an email or a WhatsApp notice goes to the wrong person.
Yes, remember who was the offender. It's you that are driving too fast. So you are the offender, and you must make sure. And there's a lot of places where you can go and check your fines. But yes, unfortunately, there's a lot of fraudulent websites as well. So people must be aware of that.
And that's a real problem. How can motorists then distinguish the official government portal ending in .gov.za from private or fraudulent websites, given some of the quality of those websites is not too bad?
Yes, unfortunately, there's people using arto.co.za, and then they think they really get to the real website, and that is not the official Arto website. You also, at the moment, there's so many mails and SMSs that people receive from so-called Pay City or Pay My Fines. That's not true. It's not real. It's not. People must check. You must verify that fine and not just pay. We get people that just open the link, put in their banking details and pay the fine. And then they are hacked. They can lose all their money in their accounts.
How difficult, Cornelia, is it to challenge a false infringement before penalties and administrative consequences actually escalate?
It's very easy, and that's why you need to check your fines at least once a week. And if you see there's a vehicle and it's got a wrong number, or you drive a one make of car and then you see it's a bulldozer because we received a fine like that, then you send us, if you work with us or anybody else, you send us a copy of your latest document and we do a representation to say the wrong number plate was used or cloned, or it was an MW but your vehicle is an MV. It happens. I mean, it can happen. But if you can check it and notify the department that there was a problem, they cancel those fines. We do at least 2 to 3 per day. And I can tell you the moment that I send it in, if I look tomorrow, that fine is cancelled. So it's not a big problem. But now you get a fine and you say, oh, it's not my vehicle on the fine. Let me just ignore this fine. You can't just ignore it. You must work with it.
We've got a number of questions to our program about whether motorists should pay questionable fines simply to protect themselves or challenge them and risk missing the deadline.
The old fines, there's a lot of fines still outstanding on all systems, Arto and the Criminal Procedure Act that's not in Johannesburg and Pretoria. And they are now challenging people and phoning and sending mails to say this fine is outstanding. But you don't need to rush to pay it. But you can ask for reduction on those fines. On the Arto fine side, you must remember that I've won a court case in 2017 to say that these fines that was not issued in the correct way, or they did not follow procedures. And 90% of the fines issued on Arto can be challenged and can be withdrawn through the court case that I won. And that is what we do. So don't just rush and pay. You're welcome to go and pay, but please just go and check whether everything was done legally. Well,
I think you certainly have sounded a number of warnings. Cornelia van Niekerk, thank you very much indeed. You are the Chief Executive Officer of Fines for You.
Moneyweb at midday for all your up-to-date stories.
South Africans may have entrepreneurial ambition, but the system meant to help them turn ideas into sustainable businesses is among the weakest in the world. Let me explain. The 2026 Global Entrepreneurship Monitor report gives South Africa's entrepreneurial environment just a 3.9 out of 10. That is the 7th lowest score among 56 countries. The research was conducted in partnership by the Stellenbosch Business School, the University of Johannesburg, Northwest University, and the Small Enterprise Development and Finance Agency. Joining me now is Professor Natanya Meyer, Acting Chair in Entrepreneurship Education at the University of Johannesburg. She's one of the co-authors of the report. Professor, a very warm welcome to you. So are South African entrepreneurs failing, or is the system failing them?
Thanks, Jeremy. Yes, that is such a good question. Of course, we always say it's a good question, but in my opinion, as you saw on our headline, there is entrepreneurs. They are coming up with business ideas. They are solving problems that's in the market. Many of them actually, go ahead, take the collateral, take the risk, actually start the businesses, and then they get stuck somewhere, in between this ecosystem environment that's not conducive and not supporting them the way it should be. And this is exactly what this report is all about. Looking at the 13 framework conditions that we set out to say that if these conditions are in place and doing good, then the ecosystem or the environment that should be there for businesses to thrive, survive, and start will then be there. And unfortunately, the picture for the last 5 years is not so good. The environment is really, in my opinion, in many aspects, failing entrepreneurs. Of course, there's pockets of goodness happening, but if you look, in an aggregate overview of what's happening in the bigger picture, it's not a conducive environment at the moment for many businesses.
3.9 out of 10. What's the single biggest reason then that we rank so poorly?
Okay, maybe just for the listeners, that 3.9 out of 10. So how we score that is we take the 13 framework conditions and then aggregate them into an index, of course, out of 10. Now, these variables are rated not by me or some other academic. It's rated by the people that work in these industries. So we get experts in from our country that works in finance, education, legal aspects, a government institution area. So all of these policy development, and we actually ask them their opinion on the ecosystem. So just to clear it out there that this is the opinion from professional people working in these spaces. So coming back to your question, it's actually almost impossible to pinpoint only one, because it's a, if we look at the definition of an ecosystem, it's a working environment of a lot of factors that works together. But of course, we have the factors and the ratings for each of these 13 framework conditions that we do consider to be necessary in a framework. So if we look at the latest rates, and what we've done in this report, we've actually looked over 5 years, because these type of things also don't happen overnight. It's sometimes a very systemic thing that happens in a country. For many years things hasn't been working, and then you get to these low rates, or for many years people have put in a lot of effort and then they start increasing and looking better. So unfortunately, all our conditions for the five past years have either been flat, declining slightly, or improving. But I mean, when I'm talking about improving, it's like 0.1. It's like from 3.1 to 3.2. So it's not significantly. So looking at the ones that's currently not doing well, which is all 13, but okay, let me pinpoint the ones that we really need to focus on. Physical infrastructure is one of the biggest concerns at the moment. We've seen a big drop from 4.8 to 4.2 in the last cycle. So 4.8 was the score in 2024, and 4.2. So that was the largest drop. And I mean, this is totally true. You can ask anyone that's not in business, that doesn't understand what an ecosystem is, that's got nothing to do with it, is your infrastructure up to date? And I'm pretty sure they're going to say no. They've either passed a pothole, didn't have water, had an electricity issue, didn't get their refuse removed. So all of these things are seriously implicating the effectiveness of a lot of business. Now, of course, this is physical and hardcore infrastructure. We also have the other portion, which is commercial and professional infrastructure. And we're seeing a slight backlog on this as well. This is things like technology, Wi-Fi accessibility, broadband, these type of things. And a lot of our rural areas, of course, are totally excluded in this. And we need to remember, that's why I'm saying there's pockets of excellence. It's not all bad in all areas. But if you look at the bigger South African picture, a lot of our areas and a lot of especially rural and peri-urban areas are totally being excluded if it comes to any upgrade of any type of infrastructure. Regardless if it's, the hardcore stuff or commercial and professional infrastructure. So that's the one that stands out the most at the moment.
The report goes on to say that government support is described as fragmented and opaque. I guess, Professor, it raises the question then why entrepreneurs have to master bureaucracy simply to survive.
Exactly. So the other two that has seriously gone down, and that's also problematic, I've listed the infrastructure, the two of infrastructure to you now, is our government policy framework condition, which is basically support and relevance, and then the burdens and regulation one for ease of entry. So businesses are finding it extremely difficult to navigate the complexity around registrations, being legal, complying, labor laws, all these things. And in all my speeches, I always say, I'm not saying we shouldn't comply and we shouldn't have these things, because of course, each and every policy and regulation that's been implemented is of course there for a reason. But it's really putting almost like an anchor around small businesses' ankles and drowning them day by day just to keep up with all of these changes. I recently read something in the news about a new labor law coming in. For example, if you've got more than 50 employees, then there's now additional restrictions to how you may appoint and who you may appoint. You see, this is a clear barrier for businesses, and it's going to make people to say, well, we stop at 49. We're not going to appoint the 50th and the 52nd and the 53rd person, which we have funding and growth for, because now we need to have another layer of reporting. So at this stage, and this also links back to if you get to any recommendations that you want me to discuss at the end, the first one is we need to ease the entry regulations and reduce the red tape and bureaucracy, specifically in the small business domain, because this creates a lot of new startups and new small businesses to rather remain below the radar, to not register and not formalize their businesses. And this is not what we want. We want them to formalize.
And aside from that, what other reforms then could government implement, say, within the next 12 to 18 months that might make a measurable difference?
Okay, so one of our first recommendations was exactly what you said now, a short-term one, 12 to, or well, currently till about 18 months. And this is where we really need to see government, and when we say government, it's almost like a blanket term. It's everyone in the government. But there's certain departments and certain sections in government that, of course, has this under their domain and is responsible for this area of what we're discussing now. So what I would like to see, and there's, as I say, there is some starting of this. We're seeing some of this. Look, if we benchmark to some other countries that's similar to us but doing better than us in this NECI index that we reported on in the beginning. What are they doing? They're bringing a one-stop portal basically for small businesses where you can start, you can register, you can draw all the documents you need to know about the labor laws affecting your size of business, about the tax laws, registering people, all of this on one portal where it's accessible, it's easy to navigate, you get on-demand information, and you don't need to jump around from one side to another and all of that. Just one thing I also want to note, we have in many instances within government programs and government organizations very good policies and very good action plans to try and solve some of these problems that this report has again highlighted. The problem often comes in implementation. A small business fills in 510 pages with 200 attachments that they need to have for a specific project or, to get some funding or whatever the case may be. And then they get stuck there. Either they can't go through, you call the service line, no one answers for 6-7 months, there's no feedback on your application. And this is where the big problem lies. So it's very often not the execution or the what's on the table, but it's the execution and the follow-up of these projects. And this is a service delivery problem. And I mean, you and I see it every day when we need to walk into a government department for a license or for whatever. It's a service delivery problem as well.
Professor Natanya Meyer is one of the authors of the 2026 Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. She's from the University of Johannesburg.
You're listening to Moneyweb at Midday.
Volatile oil markets and ongoing conflict in the Middle East are increasing uncertainty for manufacturers that depend on virgin plastic. Now that, as I understand it, could create a major opportunity for South Africa's recycling industry, but only if recycled material can consistently meet the quality and reliability standards that manufacturers are demand. So I'm going to speak now to Albie Albert, who is director at the industrial plastics recycling company Evolute Plastic. I want to talk about whether recycled plastic plastic is now moving from an environmental option to a commercial necessity. I'll be good to talk to you, and given the volatile oil price, this is a very important discussion. Has that crisis made recycled plastic then a business necessity, do you think, rather than, as I referenced, an environmental choice?
Yes, Jeremy, it has certainly put the spotlight on recycled plastic. With great quality, if you can guarantee the quality on your recycled material and consistent give the quality, there is a huge gap in the market for recyclers to service the industrial market with recycled material.
And Albie, explain to me, what exactly do we mean by quality in this respect?
What we mean is, with quality, there's a couple of systems you need to put in place. Is obviously you've got to make sure there's no contamination. That's before you start recycling the material. Then also you want to do tests on the material to make sure that the recycled material is the same spec than the virgin material that your customer would need. And then most importantly, you would need traceability and then consistency. Your material must be consistent every week. The quality needs to be where it needs to be.
Albie, as we're having this conversation right now, I've got the price of Brent crude oil at about $93 a barrel. It's up 2%. Have you crunched the numbers in terms of how directly a higher oil price affects the cost and availability then of virgin plastic?
It affects it directly. So as the oil goes up, the virgin plastic material goes up by the same percentage, if not more, depending on the availability of the material.
So it's all around availability. So my next question is the obvious one. Is recycled plastic currently available in sufficient volumes to replace a meaningful portion then of virgin material?
I do think it is available in a reasonable volume. The factors is where the important part of that comes, the quality, the traceability, the consistency. So if everyone can up their game in the recycling market and start focusing on that, the recycling market is definitely going to pick up.
And is there a sense that refocus is happening within the industry right now?
Well, we at Evolute Plastic, we are trying to focus on that. We are putting systems in place. We are in the process of getting our ISO approvals, and we've started all those type of processes to make sure that the bigger corporates and the bigger industrial guys do want to deal with us because they know our quality would be consistent. And
You talk about do want to deal with us, and I think you raise a very important question there. Why do you think manufacturers, to an extent, still distrust recycled material?
Unfortunately, in the recycling business, there's not always been a focus on quality and all these words like consistency, transparency, traceability, testing the specs, making sure it's right. So we saw that gap, and that's why we're focusing on that. And I'm sure as time goes by and the virgin material gets more expensive and more hard to get, that the guys will see that it makes sense to become part of a body like Sapro. And they can also guide you with systems and help you with the quality. And I do think that recycled material can play a big part in the future.
And Albie, if there's a real focus on this now, how close can properly processed recycled plastic get to virgin plastic quality?
It can get very close. Depending on the material, if you're getting a pre-consumed or production scrap material that's getting recycled for the first time, it would be close to similar of virgin material. So you can get it as close to virgin as that.
What damage can inconsistent recycled plastics cause on a production line?
Well, that's why the market is so wary of recycled material, because if the quality is not right, they'll have downtime. Their machines, their molding machines and injection machines could get clogged up. And that's going to cost them not only money, but time, that's where the big focus should lie, is we should up our quality, make sure the material is consistent, and then we would get the trust from the industry.
What kind of testing then is required to guarantee that one batch performs just like the next? Is that a very complicated process, Albie?
It's not very complicated. You obviously need the right tools. We test every batch we do. We send all the test results with every batch we do to the customer, so there's no hidden surprises. You get a machine that's called a MFI tester. It's a melt flow index tester, which is probably the most simple way of making sure that the flow of the plastic is the same as the specs required from your customer.
A lot of your industry depends on incoming material from informal recyclers. Often they're blamed for the industry's quality problems. Is that fair?
To a certain respect, I would say that is probably fair. That's where everyone's got a part to play. If everyone ups their quality, gets systems in place and takes it more serious, we could only go up in the recycling side of things.
So how do you raise standards without excluding thousands of smaller recycling businesses and waste pickers?
Well, look, SAPRA, I'm going to get back to the body. If everyone can join the body, which is SAPRA, they've got quality and procedures in place. And once all the recyclers fall in place with those standards, everything will be of a better quality and the name of the recyclers would be better out there.
So as you move forward then, and this is the last question to you, what do you think needs to happen immediately for recycled plastic to become a mainstream industrial raw material? How close are we to that, do you think?
Look, we're working on that daily to make sure that our quality is right. I would advise the guys that's serious about recycling to also get systems in place, train their people, train their staff, make sure they know the different polymers, that there's no contamination, and then the quality and the success will follow.
Albie Alberts, thank you very much indeed. You are director at the industrial plastics recycling company Evolute Plastic. Appreciate your time today. Thank you. And that is our program for this Monday. You've been listening to Moneyweb at midday, and we are here every weekday at noon with the latest in current affairs, the economy and policy. You can always catch the podcast version a little later. Thank you for making us part of your day. Until next time, goodbye.
Listen to the daily live stream of Moneyweb at midday or download episodes on moneyweb.co.za, the Moneyweb app, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or follow Moneyweb News on social media for more updates. Moneyweb, your trusted source for business and investment insights.